Welcome to The Legal Code, the YouTube channel dedicated to answering and cracking all sorts of legal questions. If you like that sort of thing, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and of course share with anyone else you think will find value. Now we are going to discuss in this video, thanks to my girlfriend Stephanie, the Johnny Depp defamation lawsuit. She inspired me to do this video and I said, why not? Let's get on here. There's so many issues to discuss. Before we do, we want to go down memory lane. Earlier this year, I did a video about Cardi B's victorious defamation lawsuit that she brought against celebrity blogger Tasha K. In that video, I set up the scenario, as well as other respected attorneys, that this will set the precedent of more and more stars bringing these type of lawsuits against people who have defamed their reputation because of salacious and untrue comments. Well, here we are. One of the biggest, most celebrated stars who has the resources, the respectability, the time, and the courage to bring a claim against his ex-wife, Amber Heard. Johnny Depp has brought a $50 million lawsuit against his ex-wife. Now, the suit claims that Amber put out into the world in a 2016 op-ed, although not specifically naming Johnny Depp, but inferring and implying that Johnny Depp was abusive to her and a drug addict. And because of this, she put this out into the world, these claims, and because of these claims, this has derailed and impacted his ability to get work in Hollywood. Now, these comments were so damaging that Johnny Depp, who was a star for the last 30 years, respected, beloved by many. I mean, the Pirates of the Caribbean, What's Eating Gilbert Grape, I mean, so many box office hits, was unable to work. And so he brought this defamation lawsuit to salvage his reputation. Now, this is interesting because, like I said, he's no slouch. He's respected by A-list stars, respected by the elite of Hollywood, shared screens with Julia Roberts, Penelope Cruz, Oscar winners. Despite his illustrious career, he was unable to get parts because of the damage that this op-ed has done to his reputation. These statements made by Amber. Now, this is a man who's been unable to get any parts in Hollywood, and even Pirates of the Caribbean 6 is on hold, I guess, until the outcome of this trial. Now, after over 30 successful years in Hollywood, and now has to deal with salvaging his reputation because of these unfounded accusations. Now, I just want you to know that libel lawsuits are really hard to fight, which is why celebrities don't typically bring them, because they risk, one, that it's so invasive into their personal lives, and two, they're going up against big corporation, big publications. Typically, stars try to sue publications or tabloids, but often are dissuaded either by their legal team or their advisors because it's pretty much a fool's errand, that they were not going to be victorious, that the suit will drag on indefinitely, and most publications do thorough investigation before they publish anything that could be seemingly harmful or untrue to the celebrity's reputation. So a lot of publications do, or most of them, I would say, they have a practice of doing heavy forensics into what they publish. Next, they have a team of lawyers. They have a whole suite of the best lawyers in Hollywood combing through statements before they're even published. So more often than not, they have had so many eyes on the statements before it's published, it will be really hard to fight that it's actual defamation. And so what most celebrities do is they just let the publication publish whatever they want, or they pay, or they offer to make a deal with the publication in order that the publication can pay them to be able to control the narrative that they want about themselves, which is what many celebrities do, like the Kardashians, for instance. They'll say, okay, you're gonna print this story, here's the story, and they receive payment for it. The Kardashians or whatever family or whatever star receives actual payment for the story so that they can actually control the narrative about them. That's typically the best course of action, because otherwise they'll be dragged through years and years and years and expense of fighting these tabloids and probably will not come out victorious. So that's a heads up, just so you know the background of fighting libel lawsuits against publication. Most celebrities are not successful. Not to say that any of them are not, but it's a very, very, very hard bar to be able to satisfy. But Depp's case is very different because he's suing Amber Heard, an individual, his ex-wife. And so it makes it more of a low-hanging fruit and easier to be successful or have a favorable resolution that favors him. However, even as victorious, the results of this is that it has put a spotlight on his vulnerabilities, his demons, his struggle with substance abuse and with alcohol, which could be rather humiliating for the star or anyone for that matter. But I just want to say there's so much richness in this case. We have childhood trauma, we have abusive relationships, we have childhood abuse, we have narcissistic personality disorder, we see masculine wounds play out, we have a man, what it looks like in the public space for a man to be wrongfully. Do we correct that and salvage a person's reputation when they've been wrongfully accused for something that they have not done? So now that we have the frame up of what this case tells us, I want to break down Johnny Depp's legal strategy. Johnny Depp's strategy is not to deny that he suffers from drug abuse, alcohol abuse, substance abuse. He's rather vocal and about suffering for this. And I think it's admirable, and I think it's refreshing for him not to hide or be evasive about this or shamed about it. I think it helps his legal strategy in showing that, yes, I have this demon, I have mental health issues surrounding this, but that does not make me an abuser or a violent person. I also see him trying to prove that the abuse was initiated and provoked by Amber, that he wasn't the violent abuser. In fact, she was, and she's not a victim of domestic violence, but a provocateur and a perpetrator of domestic violence and violence toward him. And although the relationship is tumultuous, it's tumultuous for him because of his substance abuse problem, but she is a provocateur and the violent one in the relationship. Furthermore, he wants to show that because of the toxicity in the relationship, this exacerbated his already delicate frame of mind as it relates to alcohol and drug abuse, that he was abusing drugs more because of how hostile the relationship was. You may be wondering why Johnny filed a lawsuit in the state of Virginia when neither of him nor Amber lived there. Well, Virginia is one of 10 states that adhere to the Lex Lati Delicti Commissi, which is Latin for where the tort was committed. So the Washington Post, for all intents and purposes, committed the tort. The publication which caused Johnny Depp to bring this lawsuit is located in Virginia, which is why the suit is brought there, not where he nor Amber live. Another reason why this lawsuit was not brought in California is because California has really strong anti-SLAPP statutes. So anti-SLAPP statutes are intended to prevent lawsuits such as defamation lawsuits that may intimidate those that may be exercising their First Amendment free speech. So under most anti-SLAPP laws, the person sued for defamation can make a motion to strike the suit because it involves protected speech. For example, if this were in California, Amber will argue that her op-ed was about domestic violence. It's a matter of public concern that merits First Amendment protection. So under California's anti-SLAPP law, if Depp lost in this motion to strike, he will have to pay the legal fees of Amber. So technically, this law allows for early dismissal of defamation or meritless suits against people for the exercise of their First Amendment rights. Currently, Virginia's anti-SLAPP laws provides immunity for certain claims that are matter of public concern if that person made the claims with no constructive knowledge that it was false or that it was a reckless disregard for the truth, which the jury will decide ultimately. This is what the jury will determine, whether the statements were made with reckless disregard for the truth. So ultimately, Virginia is a better state than California for defamation lawsuits because of the flexibility, rather than California, which has a very rigid anti-SLAPP law. So let's break down Depp's legal strategy. So we open up with the compelling testimony of Johnny Depp's sister, who lays down a foundation that shows that they suffered from traumatic childhood and that they had an abusive mother. She has inside knowledge of his life. She has been ostensibly his manager, his sister, knowing his ins and outs, his highs and his lows, like managing travel, managing everything. So she provides really accurate and dense testimony as to who Johnny's character is. She's also an ideal character witness because of her reputation of discretion. She's not in Hollywood per se. She works in Hollywood, but not of it. She's soft-spoken. She's not exaggerated. And she's not trying to bad talk Amber's character. And so her testimony is very balanced in that way, and it's not salacious. And we see her speaking about her brother fondly, but we don't see her speaking about Amber poorly or subjectively. Her testimony about Amber is controlled and extremely honest and diplomatic. She does not want to bad talk her. You see, she's very careful in what she says as to not exaggerate. Although, yeah, so she's extremely objective. And she described Amber as being typically nice, which was unusual. She couldn't find something positive to say, but she would say she was typically nice, which is not something, it's an interesting play on words for someone that's your sister-in-law. But it's loaded in a way, it's saying that she's not a genuinely kind-hearted person. She would model nice behavior to show everyone else that she seems nice, but in fact she's modeling nice behavior, but it's not instinctual, or she doesn't intend to be a kind person in her everyday life. So this was interesting. She also describes certain interactions with Amber that portrays Amber as being self-centered, narcissistic, and selfish, which help Johnny's case, because you don't have a sister being envious or inappropriately envious toward their brother, but more being protective, especially her testimony in regards to their meeting with Dior, where Johnny was being asked to sit in on meetings with Dior. Dior was interested in him for, I guess now we know it's the Sauvage campaign, and which Amber learned about it and said, why would Dior want you? Dior is about style and class, and you have neither one. Now this type of insult, oh my goodness, an insult of this magnitude is a special kind of insult, especially to a man. It's not only destructive, it's to cut at him, and it's to cut at his livelihood, which is bizarre because, let's be honest, like, he's bankrolling her lifestyle and she's living off of his dime. So for her to undermine his ability to work through such a destructive comment speaks to her character. So the sister was good at portraying Amber's mean-spiritedness, her dysfunction, the day-to-day interactions with Johnny that were inappropriate, especially the fight the day after they lost their mother. She described that as being not the appropriate time to fight with your spouse, that she could show more compassion and empathy. Again, very, very objective in that sense. And so she laid out the framework that Amber was unkind without it being salacious, and that she worried about the well-being of her brother. What harmed her testimony, and this was so painful to watch, is that she did not want to admit on cross that he suffered from substance abuse. I don't think it harmed her testimony to concede that he suffered from drug and alcohol abuse and he was working on it. I don't think it harmed her to admit that, and rather it was more challenging that she was evasive and trying to talk around it instead of admitting that yes, he suffered from that, but that didn't make him abusive, because alcohol and drugs and mental health, that's one issue, but that doesn't mean a person is violent. And if she had declared that and made that statement, I think the defense attorney would have to scramble and re-strategize around that admission. And yeah, that would have been more challenging for the defense attorney, because they expect you to be defensive while you are being crossed. But if she admitted that, I think it would have been fine. It would have salvaged her testimony. Also, from Johnny's other witnesses, we see how tumultuous the relationship is. Only 18 months, but there was so much chaos, obviously dysfunctional, obviously volatile, from friends, from security guards, from their marriage counselor, that there was so much going on. But again, they show that he was suffering with drug abuse, but that didn't equate that he was going to be destructive or violent toward Amber. Now, defense's strategy, you see them trying to hunker down on Johnny Depp's drug use. But I don't necessarily think that was helpful in portraying him as abusive, as Amber claims. Drug abuse is not always causal or a correlation to physical abuse. He was reaching, I believe, the defense attorney in terms of the abuse to try and portray Johnny as a bad person just because he had a substance abuse problem. But it was misdirected, because the trial is not about the veracity of drug use. It's about whether or not physical abuse happened to Amber Heard. Secondly, what hurt the defense's attorney story was that there's not a lot of evidence of abuse. People close to Amber do not have any documentation of bruises, of hospital visits. There's no story regarding her going to the hospital. And so that's also harmful to the defense, because a woman who gets hit by a man is going to have bruises. That's just the way it is. The strength of a man is going to bruise a woman's skin. For her never to have bruises, never to have to go to the hospital, and this is a type of woman who likes attention. For her not to go to the hospital, it shows that her story is not credible. And also, the one time where the police was involved, when the police was called, if you listen to the 911 testimony, I'll insert it here.
27 seconds. 911 emergency operator 278. Hi, I need to report an assault right now happening at 849 Broadway at the Eastern Building in Penthouse 3. And 37 seconds. Okay, are you there right now, miss? No, I'm downstairs. Okay, and I'm sorry, you said 840, was it North or South Broadway? 47 seconds. I don't know, it's Eastern Building, downtown LA. 20, 27 and 57 seconds. Because it's coming up in different areas, and we have to be sure. 20, somebody would be physically assaulted? Yeah. 7 seconds. A woman. Who was hurting her? A man. Is that her boyfriend? A man. That's all I know. 17 seconds. Did you witness it? No, I happen to know that it's happening, and I just need to remain anonymous. Okay, you can remain anonymous, but I have to be certain what's going on. How do you know this is going on? She told me. Okay, so this is a friend of yours? Yeah. Okay, so what did she say, that this guy was assaulted her or hit her? Physically assaulting her, yeah. Okay. But this isn't a boyfriend or anything like that? Yes, it could be, yeah. Okay, is it her boyfriend, yes or no? Yes. Okay. All right, hold on. Are you between 8th and 9th Street downtown? Okay, yeah, exactly. Okay, and I'm sorry, what was the suite number? Penthouse 3. Penthouse 3, okay. And want us to be anonymous, right? Yes,
and 07 seconds.
And your friend, did she relay this information to you via text or were you talking to her?
29 and 17 seconds.
What's her name?
May 20.
Her name, Amber.
2016.
That's all I can tell you. I have to go.
And
okay, well, that's all we have. Well, we can't talk to her. There's not much we can do. What do you need to send somebody up, please? I'm going to send someone up, ma'am. But, you know, if we get up there and she denies it or... Okay, just so you know, okay? So we're coming out to 840 Broadway, Penthouse 3, okay? Say 849.
So in that testimony, you can hear that friend. Like, if I was calling the police on behalf of my friend who is getting beaten up by her spouse, I would be panicked. I would be hysterical. I would be worried. This friend sounds so controlled, and she sounds like she contrived the story with Amber, or Amber put her up to call the police. She did not want to give any details about who was fighting, that it was her friend, that it was the spouse fighting. So it was a weird 911 call, and it sounds entirely like a setup. She's nervous. She's not wanting to say where she is exactly. There's no sense of urgency. It was just a weird 911 call. It seemed totally scripted. And then when the police did show up, we all learned later on, there were no signs of abuse. Amber said, oh, I was just having an argument with my husband, not a fight. There was no mention of physical harm or abuse to her. Police left a few days later. She just appeared on social media as having bruises that are alleged to have been attacks from Johnny Depp. So as you could see, this woman is a storyteller. These bruises were never talked about with the police, but all of a sudden 2 days later she has bruises. So that points to her credibility, and that, I believe, is going to be admissible in court. Furthermore, people close to Amber do not see any bruises. Her makeup artist, if anyone's going to see bruises, it's going to be the makeup artist. Her personal assistant. These people see you dress and undress. They're going to see bruises and make a mental note of it. And finally, there's so much in this case. I was just moved by how tumultuous this relationship was and how damaged each of them were in very different way. But we're able to document through text, photos, videos, their partner's lowest moments. There's no virtue in fighting for love when it looks like this, when it's so dysfunctional. Furthermore, I see Johnny trying to show that Amber was no victim of Me Too or a victim of any kind. What he's doing is undermining her credibility about being abused by pointing out her destructive and violent conduct, including the fecal matter that was left on his bed, among other things that she did. So that is how he's salvaging his reputation to show, hey, I suffer with drug abuse. That's a separate issue from being a violent man. And so far, I think he's gaining traction with these sorts of cases. It's touch and go. But I think there's a lot of support out there for Johnny Depp. He's beloved by many, respected by many, and his reputation precedes him. And I hope he has a positive outcome throughout all of this. With that being said, I will do my best to update you from week to week as the trial continues. There's so much going on, and it's hours and hours of testimony. So I will do my best to get that out to you. Let me know what you think. If you support Johnny Depp or if you believe Amber Heard, please, all comments are welcome in the comment section. And also, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, I probably will do a follow-up video about men who have been wrongfully Me Too'd and caught up in the Me Too movement. Good men who just got railroaded and caught up in that, and how this has impacted many men, their unspoken stories. So I will do a follow-up video about that in the middle of this trial. So again, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.